You know, sometimes I wonder if I hold the unofficial world record for wildest HOA showdown that somehow ends with a felony conviction. If you think you've heard anything wilder, drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. Because honestly, what happened to me still sounds like a fever dream. Picture this. It all kicks off, as these things always do, with a power trip on legs. Miss Agnes Periwinkle, our freshly minted HOA president, who liked to style herself as the steward of community standards. Personally, I just called her Karen, but only behind her back. At least, until the day it all blew up. I wish I can say it started with something dramatic, but the truth is, these neighborhood nightmares always sneak up on you. See, our previous HOA president, Mr. Popless Henderson, was a sweet old man whose biggest concerns were the annual petunia contest and whether the Christmas lights were too flashy. He retired to be near his grandkids, and with that, a power vacuum opened and Agnes Periwinkle strutted right in, riding a wave of righteous indignation and a nearly religious devotion to the HOA bylaws, as if they'd been handed down from Mount Sinai. I remember her so-called campaign. She'd go door to door, not asking for your vote, but pointing out that your azaleas were half an inch over the path or that your recycling bin was visible from the street. She drove a pearl-white Lexus SUV, always spotless, always parked at an angle as if even gravity needed her permission to operate. Her hair perfect, lacquered, and immovable, her outfit stiff, expensive, and utterly joyless. If a robot had a sense of fashion, it'd probably look like her. Now, I'm an engineer, 40 years of designing security systems for sensitive sites. My brain is hardwired for rules, logic, and boundaries, so when Agnes won her election, and I use that term loosely, the turnout was a joke. I thought, okay, she's a busybody, but how bad could it be? I've handled bigger egos in corporate boardrooms. Oh, how wrong I was. Her first months were a blitzkrieg of new rules, amendments, and strict interpretations. The newsletter that used to announce block parties turned into a blacklist of violators. Lawn gnomes were suddenly an offense. Wind chimes? Declared public enemy number one. The only acceptable house colors were 3 indistinguishable shades of beige. Poor Mrs. Gable, my neighbor and the rose queen of the street, got cited because a few petals landed on the sidewalk. Everyone grumbled, but mostly we kept our heads down. But then came her Master Key initiative, rolled out one rainy Tuesday with barely a quorum at the clubhouse. Agnes announced, chin held high, that for the safety and security of our community, the HOA would acquire a master key system for all residences. For emergencies, she claimed, and for routine inspections. The room went silent. Even her usual yes-men looked nervous. Finally, Tom Henderson stammered, "You mean a key to everyone's house?" She nodded, beaming, for efficiency and community standards. I felt a chill. This wasn't just overreach, it was an invasion. I raised my hand and asked, as calmly as possible, "Ms. Periwinkle, can you cite where in our covenants or state law the HOA is authorized to possess a master key to private homes?" She blinked, her smile faded for half a second. "It's for community betterment," she insisted. I pressed, "Proactive measures still need to be legal. What locksmith would even create this without homeowner approval?" She bristled, insisted the board had approved it, though her backup crew seemed to suddenly find their shoes fascinating. Long story short, the motion passed mostly, I think, out of fear or exhaustion rather than real agreement. I went home fuming but determined. That night, I dug into Virginia state law, property codes, trespass statutes, you name it. Not a single precedent supported her plan. In fact, the law was on my side. I sent a certified letter to the board, formally refusing to comply, and started beefing up my home security bolts that couldn't be master keyed, security cameras, the works. My son Mark, a 911 dispatcher, thought I was being paranoid, but he said, "Dad, just be careful, people like that get crazy when you push back." He had no idea. The retaliation started immediately, bogus violation letters about my lawn, my mailbox, you name it. Every week, something new. I answered each one with documentation and, when necessary, notarized statements. Agnes, in her white Lexus, started cruising past my house, lingering, scowling. Some neighbors whispered encouragement. Mrs. Gable left me pressed flowers and clippings about other HOAs gone mad. Others kept their distance, afraid of becoming the next target. The board was useless. Arthur Jenkins, scared of his own shadow, and Brenda Riley, Agnes's #1 fan, just nodded and enabled her. I cornered Arthur once, suggesting the master key idea would get the HOA sued. He mumbled something about, "Agnes knows what she's doing," and vanished into his garage. Mark called every few days. "How's the war, Dad?" I'd give him the rundown. He'd suggest moving to a condo, and I'd laugh. "Never. It's the principle, son." I documented everything, and my cameras caught Agnes trying to measure my mailbox one day, face screwed up like she was splitting the atom. She started sending notices about voluntary lock upgrades, then threatening fines and legal action when I ignored them. One morning, I found a fresh scratch on my car door, petty, but so obviously her. I filed a police report just to have a record. By now, the tension was suffocating. Friendly waves vanished. People ducked into their homes when Agnes drove by. I talked to a lawyer friend, just to be sure I had my bases covered. He looked at my documentation, laughed, and said, "If she tries to force entry, you've got her dead to rights." And then, well, the showdown. It was a bright Tuesday. I was in my home office, just settling in, when I heard someone fumble a key in my lock. I peeked out. Agnes, in a blinding yellow pantsuit, helmet hair glinting, trying desperately to jam a giant tagged key into my deadbolt. She twisted, jiggled, tried upside down nothing. My custom lock held firm, and my camera was rolling the whole time. After a minute of fruitless effort, she pulled out her phone angry, gesticulating, dialing 911. I couldn't hear her, but I knew my son Mark was probably the dispatcher. Agnes, pacing and waving, started spinning a wild tale. "Uncooperative, possibly dangerous individual. I'm the HOA president. I demand access. This is a serious security risk." I could almost see Mark's eyebrow hit the ceiling. Then, her voice shot up. "He's barricaded himself in. I might need an airlift and special forces. You can't make this stuff up." She went full Tom Clancy, casting me as some dangerous villain. The audacity, yeah, that happened. Within minutes, it was chaos outside. First, a police cruiser, lights on, siren off. Then another. Then fire trucks, an ambulance, even a helicopter. Agnes stood tall, chest out, as if she'd saved the world. For a moment, her hair actually came undone in the helicopter's downdraft, and I had to stifle a laugh. Time for the grand entrance. I calmly unlocked my door, stepped out in my cardigan, and nodded at the nearest officer, Sergeant Miller. "Morning, Sergeant. Can I help you?" He looked me up and down, glanced at Agnes, now borderline hysterical, and back at me. "Sir, we received a 911 call about a possible hostage situation and a request for special forces. This lady says you're barricaded in and refusing lawful entry." I explained the situation, showed my cameras, the documentation, everything. Agnes sputtered, insisting I was resisting HOA policy. Miller asked her, "Ma'am, did you see weapons? Did he threaten you?" She faltered, "Well, no, but he's locked in there, refusing inspection." The sergeant just shook his head. "People are generally allowed to be in their own homes, ma'am." While officers checked the house, finding nothing but my half-finished crossword and a cup of coffee, I pulled up the security footage, Agnes failing to unlock my door, then making her dramatic 911 call. The room was silent as they watched. The paramedics and fire crew looked about ready to strangle her themselves. Finally, Miller turned to Agnes, his voice low. "Making a false police report is a serious offense. You fabricated an emergency, wasted resources, and made wild accusations without a shred of evidence." Her face went pale. But, it's HOA policy. I'm the president." He cut her off. "State law trumps HOA rules." Officer, read MS. Periwinkle, her rights. The click of the handcuffs was music to my ears. Agnes's arrest was the talk of the neighborhood for weeks. Suddenly, people came out of hiding. Mrs. Gable did a little jig in her driveway. Sergeant Miller thanked me for the evidence. Mark, my son, was commended for staying professional despite the insanity. The fallout kept growing. Turns out, the master key was just the tip of the iceberg. With Agnes gone, neighbors came forward with stories of financial shenanigans, harassment, contracts awarded to friends. The police found evidence of embezzlement, fraud, you name it. The remaining board members sang like birds, desperate to save themselves. In court, Agnes tried every trick: emotional distress, good faith, blaming others, but the evidence was damning. My video, the records, the ridiculous 911 call when the jury heard her demand for an airlift, I swear even the judge smirked. She was found guilty: felony false report, fraud, embezzlement. 5 years in state prison, restitution for the emergency costs, and the HOA got a new, decent board Mrs. Gable included. Lawn gnomes and wind chimes came back. The newsletter had birthdays again, and the neighborhood felt alive, not terrified. As for me, I went back to my garden, earned a reputation as the guy who took down the HOA Karen, and Mark got promoted. Sometimes we laugh about the airlift incident, but there's a real lesson here: abuse of power, no matter how small it starts, can spiral. Stand your ground, document everything, and trust that, sometimes, justice shows up eventually. So, what do you think? Craziest HOA story ever? Or can someone top airlift Karen? Let me know in the comments, because honestly, I'm dying to hear if there's anything wilder out there. And thanks for listening to my little saga of suburban warfare.